With so many different types of people watching Survivor, we are bound to have different opinions from others. Opinions that would get us stoned if we lived in a fantasy land where a quote unquote wrong opinion about Survivor had that kind of power. Today, I will be sharing some of mine and some of the ones you all posted on my community tab here on YouTube when I asked for them a little while back. By the way, be sure to subscribe because I do posts like that quite often. All right, prepare your biggest stones to throw. Number 1, as we saw with Survivor 45 being arguably the best season since David vs. Goliath, the cast makes or breaks a season. Oh yeah, my unpopular opinion about the cast of Survivor since season 39 is how overly nice or even fake they seem to be. Not everyone, but a lot of them. Jeff has stated on the official Survivor podcast that he casts with the intention of, do I want to talk to this person? And yeah, when you have everything distilled down to does Jeff want to talk to them, you're going to get a limited range of personalities. And that also leads to people who just want to suck up and do what they think the show wants them to do to be on TV. Big fake reactions at tribal council, being way too nice at all times, and giving endless analogies to please the analogy-loving host. Basically, they're doing what they think Jeff will love. Not only do we get a lot of similar personalities because of this, since that is who Jeff wants to talk to, but when we hear about some of the dark stuff they do after the season ends, it makes us realize a lot of them are just putting on a show for the cameras. And of course, that's not new for TV, but we need more people who do not actually care about what Jeff or the audience at home or the people on Reddit think about them. I know, it's unpopular. We need some pot stirs. We got this somewhat in Survivor 45, but the balance is too far on the nice side and needs to be nudged back to make a more balanced cast of real people. D. Barler says, the casting is more diverse, but the actual personalities from season to season in the new era are very similar. Uncle Squirrel Stash says, I am all for people quitting if it means more interesting people move forward within the game. Yes, they take spots of people auditioning, but in the case of 45, these were pre-merge positions that those auditioning wouldn't want to be eliminated in anyways. Wood says, I love the Fire Token twist. I thought it was super interesting to see former winners who all have social bonds outside the game use a currency and weigh each trade they make. It brought good gameplay and bad gameplay, but I would want to see it on a cast of all newbies to see what they would do with it. Number 2, the Survivor auction returned for Survivor 45. Finally, heck, they did the unthinkable and didn't include any advantages at all, which is great. When it aired, I was thrilled, as you may have heard on our podcast right after, and so many other fans were as well. We were just happy it came back and that they didn't go harder on what broke it in the first place. However, I've had some time to ponderosa about it, and I think the auction is still broken, but in a whole new way. I am not saying to get rid of it again by any means. Any auction is better than no auction. I want to be very clear about that. But the new auction rules essentially encourage players to just spend all their money at once, no matter what's available, so they don't lose their vote. I don't mind the limited items or even a random number of items. I think that's actually fun, but the threat of losing a vote will make the auction very predictable if not rectified in future editions of it. So unfortunately, the auction is still broken, and while I do like having the auction around, I sure hope they improve it and not just do what they did in 45 again. Colt says, the Amazon and Marquesas, aka seasons 6 and 4, are underappreciated. There are some amazing characters if you watch them start to finish, like Jenna, Rob C, Heidi, Matt, Vesepia, Sean, Boston Rob, Kathy, Nalia, and Pascal. I get they're not seasons for everyone, but after a rewatch, they've become 2 of my favorites. Mango says, the twists of modern Survivor add more than they take away. It is interesting to see production try new things. It's a new way, even though I'll admit variants of locations and season themes would be even better, to shake the show up, and it prevents one meta from working in every season. Jason says, this might be crazy, but I actually like 100% of the twists they put on the show. Wow, I guess Jason's implying even the hourglass is good. Wow, okay. Well, he says, not because of the twists themselves, but because I love the show, and at its essence, it's a show that is constantly evolving. So every time they put something new in, instead of being angry about it, I find enjoyment in seeing the way the players interact with it, no matter what it is. And he goes on from there, as you can read, but I will say, Jason, are you Jeff Probst's alt account? Because I want to know. By the way, thank you all for watching this channel and supporting it by liking and subscribing. If you want to help pick what videos I make and watch them all weeks and even months early, then consider financially supporting us on Patreon. Patreon now has a free tier so everyone can join and see the posts I make that are only on there. Thank you for your support. Number 3, this one hasn't even happened yet, but I'm calling my shot. We all begged for Survivor to just have more airtime. Moving to 90 minutes has been excellent. It made Survivor 45 that much better. I personally thought it was a big success. I see most people saying the same. I have seen some naysayers about it, but what else is new? But the numbers, the viewership numbers and the ratings say, yeah, it worked. CBS even agreed and is saying, hey, Survivor, go ahead and do it again for Survivor 46, which is awesome. Fans have rejoiced. More Survivor means a better show, right? Well, CBS has scheduled the first 2 episodes of Survivor 46 to be 2 hours each. That is great for the premiere. No arguments here. There is so much ground to cover and new people to meet there. But a regular episode of Survivor, in this case, Survivor 46 episode 2, being 2 hours will be long and dull, in my opinion. Watch this opinion age like milk. But Survivor doesn't typically have 2 challenges per episode until episode 3, and Jeff has openly stated they filmed Survivor 46 knowing it will likely be 60-minute episodes, but are ready if CBS wants 90. Well, they don't want 90 for episode 2, they want 120 minutes, which I know includes commercials, but I think that is too long unless it's a premiere or finale. 90 minutes is the perfect length. More Survivor can be a bad thing, and I'm guessing episode 2 of Survivor 46 may be a bad thing. At the Aki plant says returnee seasons are almost always better than new player seasons. Knowing all the players right off the bat means the stakes are high from the start. Someone you know and love already is going home each episode. I would take a new returnee season over a newbie one any day. Professor J Gaming says the show is more interesting when true villainous or at least thoroughly negative people were cast. Zur says, I think 43 is an underrated season and is the second best season of the new era. With 90-minute episodes, I think 43 would have an argument of being the best new era season. The gameplay was interesting in 43. I think there were barely any duds on the cast. One of my all-time favorite players was on 43, and that being Cody. In contrast, I think 45 is slightly overrated simply because I didn't find the gameplay that interesting. It's basically a Reba steamroll, and while longer episodes certainly helped the season, the gameplay was mostly boring because of that steamroll. Once the Reba 4 voted out the most competent Bellow player, Kelly, they barely faced any resistance. Even Emily, who was my favorite, contributed to the steamroll by siding with the Rebas. Joel says season 44 would be a bottom tier season if it wasn't for Jam, Carolyn, and Carson running the game. Kyle says fans should give up on expecting newer seasons to contain strong villains. Social media has heavily disincentivized players from acting negatively on the island, and cutthroat gameplay that used to be considered villainous no longer is. Number 4. I know I say this almost every year, and every year it remains unpopular. So Survivor Samoa is an amazing season that perfectly encapsulates what Survivor's all about. By the way, Survivor Vanuatu is very underrated as well, but that's not the point I'm making in this one. The edit is delusionally focused on Russell in Samoa, and it loves him in a way that's kind of baffling. Russell finds an idol in Samoa, triumphant music, and shows how big his brain is. But then Russell finds an idol the very next season in Heroes vs. Villains, and silence, and others mocking him in confessionals. It's quite the contrast from the edit. Anyways, Natalie beating Russell in Samoa reminds everyone that making friends is how you win Survivor, not making enemies. There's an argument from many that Russell would win a modern season if he played exactly the same, and no, he wouldn't. If Russell treated a modern jury the same way he treated the Samoa or Heroes vs. Villains jury, he would lose again. Modern juries are still very emotional. You can't just trash the jury and play super emotional yourself and then get upset when the jury emotionally votes against you. However, I don't want to counter my earlier point in this video. We need Russells on Survivor, and Jeff has openly stated on the official Survivor podcast that he would never cast a Russell again, as the show has moved away from that, which I find incredibly sad. Players who stir the pot make the show more interesting, and the showrunner disagrees with us. Tiger says Gabler winning in 43 is infinitely more entertaining than any other new era winner because of how surprising it was. Every other new era winner was extremely predictable and almost boring to watch. While it may not be as satisfying as an ending, I'll never forget the shock I felt when seeing him win. Tiger, I completely agree on this one actually. Aya Band Stuff with an I says, spoiler warning, for a season I guess it's 14 years old. Spoiler warning, season 20 Heroes vs. Villains is not that great of a season. I don't know how it's a favorite by so many. There are so many parts where I'm bored during the season. The pre-merge lasts way too long. Most of the challenges suck in my opinion, especially in the pre-merge. There are great blind sides, but other than that, I don't find the season that captivating. Russell basically controls everything until Final Tribal, where he realizes that he played the game wrong, again, which is cool. And honestly, it's pretty close between Parvati and Sandra for who would win, but like I said, there's barely anything else that's a bonus factor for this season. Pancake says, Caleb's successful shot in the dark play wasn't that impressive, solely because he kind of just needed to play it so early in the game. Also, Emily got far too many confessionals for being such a boring narrator. Number 5. This one is a bit niche, but if you're this deep into a video about Survivor on YouTube, then either you already know about this, or you're gonna have a big aha moment when you realize, oh yeah, that is what happened. You see, season 42 and prior had players doing post-game interviews for multiple outlets where they would talk for anywhere upwards to 5 or 6 hours long about their game. It was getting wildly out of hand, and it was becoming a game between Survivor alumni to see who could go the longest. Some people love this and still wish for it, but not me. I think they were overbloated and longed for those excessively long podcasts to just have like a shorter version available to listen to. Frankly, I thought 2/3 of most of the podcasts were just filler. I wanted all killer, no filler podcast for the post game personally. Well, after Omer revealed on Rob Has a Podcast how Drea mistreated him on Ponderosa, a mysterious force swooped in and has now forced all post-game interviews to not exceed 1 hour. And thank you. I mean, some players should get like an hour and a half if they won the game, for example, but my goodness, do I enjoy this change. And I know so many have complained about it, but not me. To be clear, I don't mind if there are 6-hour interviews, go for it. I think we should have the freedom of choice. I just personally like the condensed version that they're putting out now. The new ones include just the good stuff, as many times those overly long podcasts of the past wouldn't even start talking about the game they played in any serious way until like 30, 45 minutes in. Bring back the long podcast for others, but yeah, I don't really care if they never exist again. I'm on board with the condensed hour-long ones that they now have. Jason says, many believe Jonathan and Wanda went out unfairly in Palau, saying it was a cruel twist. I disagree. However, they should have been invited back in later seasons, like in Guatemala, instead of Bobby, John, and Stephanie. Pimna says, I think the Survivor 46 logo looks kind of cool. Pimna, you may be alone on that one. Mason says, Dee is possibly the most boring winner in the history of the show. I would have to think about every winner and compare, but right now I'm saying she's the most boring. User says, I think that Adam and Jeremy are both terrible winners because in my opinion, the only reason they won was because of sympathy, because of family things going on in their life. So what do you all think? What unpopular opinions do you have about Survivor? Comment below and let me know. Thank you for watching, and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. I'll see you all next time.